Okay, yeah. So, yes, the shows are spreading everyone thin. I would
Yeah.
have liked to see one a just them have taken a break from the main Walking Dead show. Just be like, we're not gonna make any new seasons
That would have been a good idea.
for 2 years, 3 years, and then we're gonna start back up again with the whole cast.
Yeah.
That would be probably my preferred option. And then, or B, to end the Walking Dead main show and then to just have one Succession show. The Walking Dead ends when Rick ends.
Well, Rick remained there in spirit.
Oh, fuck off with that shit.
Because of Judith.
Because they talked about him. They talked about him every episode. Every episode after that, they was like, "Hey, Rick, what did?"
Well, yeah. I mean, they have Judith and Daryl. You know, he's a close
Judith
friend.
isn't enough. I think, like I was saying, Carl could have carried it to some extent, but there was no one else left for me where I was like, what's the point? What's the point without Rick or Carl?
So you didn't have any investment in any of the other characters?
No, it just wasn't the same. I tried. I watched a few episodes, and they started introducing like new characters, the fucking fat musician guy and the deaf girl, and I was
What about
like,
Negan?
Who the fuck cares? I love Negan. I think Negan's an awesome character, but I'm not gonna watch the show for Negan. It's not Walking Dead anymore.
Daryl?
I was always like mid on Daryl, actually.
Wow.
Is that a hot take? Listen, I think he's an incredible addition to the show. He obviously wasn't in the comics.
Yeah.
They made the role for him. I think that was incredible. But he's a supporting character. He's not the main hero. He's not the protagonist.
They step him up in the later seasons.
They have to because he has to fill the void that Rick left.
And I think he does a solid job. They integrate that into the story, kind of like with Daryl, the pressure on Daryl to like lead what's remaining and everything. They do integrate it into the story.
Kind of. It's clear, obviously, Michonne takes Rick's place, and she's not the person I care the most about. I stopped watching when Rick died. Why did you continue?
Well, I mean, I agree. I think it is Rick's story, but I personally thought I loved Daryl. I fucking love Negan. I didn't find Judith as annoying as you did. I think that she's just as annoying as Carl was when he was a kid.
Bro, she was like running off on her own in the outside of Alexandria.
Just like Carl was back in season 2.
But she's like 7 years old.
And Carl was 7 years
But there
old.
were no borders. There weren't in a gated community.
Carl would definitely have left anyways. Let's be real. A 7-year-old Carl would have left anyways.
So. Carl was a pussy back then. Like he was scared. He was totally different than Judith. He was annoying in a different way.
Because he grew up in a different world. Judith grew up in this world. And I thought her relationship with Negan early on was pretty well done. Like Negan saves her life.
That's the best part of Judith.
Yeah.
Her dynamic with Negan I like.
I wanted to see the Whisperers interpreted onto the big screen. I wanted to see the Commonwealth and what they did with that. And with Rick leaving, honestly, I thought it gave the show a weird breath of fresh air because now I was just really curious how they were going to mix things up. They couldn't follow the comics. Like, that was like them taking a complete left turn. Like, no longer were they going to really follow the comics, aside from, like, main villain points and stuff like that.
This is my problem with Walking Dead in general. And this is coming from someone who loves the show also. Like, watched it for so many years. One of my favorite shows. But it became like a Grey's Anatomy where they're just, killing off... The actors want to leave, so they have to find excuses for them to be written off the show. And sometimes it's done okay, and sometimes it's done in a really bad way. And they do it for so many pivotal characters.
Yeah, but The Walking Dead has been doing that from the beginning.
Absolutely.
They've been doing that from the beginning. It's not new to like the new seasons.
Absolutely. That's my biggest gripe from season 2 or whatever, for when they first killed off a main character, to starting with Dale, because Dale was supposed to be in the show longer, and then he had a disagreement with the showrunner or something, and they killed him off.
Same with Andrea, T-Dog, Tyrese, like all those characters. I think all those actors wanted off the show.
So shows suffer for that,
yeah,
as opposed to like the comic where it's just coming all from one guy's head. I would have loved to see the vision, the pure vision of Walking Dead. Can you imagine what that would have been like?
I mean, I think part of it has to do with the fact that a lot of the actors that signed up for this didn't know it was going to be this big. For example, like Lauren Cohan, who plays Maggie, she wasn't like into zombies or gore or anything. She didn't care. She was just looking for a job.
Yeah.
But then the show got big and she had to stay on it. And I mean, that happens because you're dealing with people. Like actors she wanted to do something else and she fucking failed. And she came back. But like that's unavoidable with shows. Like you just gotta. It's not really the writer's fault. They just gotta do their best to write them out and write them back in or whatever. Like, but you're partly right. Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah,
you can't control people's lives for 10 plus years.
Yeah,
I think the show reached its lowest point after Negan kills Abraham and Glenn.
That season 7.
Arc. Yeah, I think that's just about season 7. That arc sucked.
You didn't like Negan having control over the show, pretty much?
I liked it, but they dragged it way too long. They dragged it. OD, and I thought it was so unlike Rick to be... Yes, he's going to be like morally fucked up or mentally fucked up from witnessing what Negan did. He's going to comply to some extent, but that shit lasted for way too many episodes.